determine the appropriate wire size and breaker size for wiring a furnace, several factors must be considered, including the amperage of the breakers, the distance from the panel to the heating unit, and relevant electrical codes. Based on the information given, two 60-amp 240-volt breakers are tied together, each with a single lug. This setup suggests a 240-volt circuit. The minimum required wire size is determined by the breaker amperage, which in this case is 60 amps for each breaker. According to the National Electrical Code, or NEC, a 60-amp breaker typically requires a minimum of 4 American wire gauge, or AUG, copper wire. It is important to consult NEC Table 310.16 for specific capacity ratings based on wire type and insulation temperature rating. The optimal breaker size, as stated, is also 60 amps. The purpose of a circuit breaker is to protect the wiring from overcurrent conditions. Using a breaker larger than the wire's capacity rating could lead to overheating and potential fire hazards. Therefore, maintaining consistency between the wire's capacity and the breaker's rating is crucial. Since the two breakers are tied together with only one lug each, it implies that they are on the same phase. In this configuration, a 4AWG 3-conductor wire can be used to feed the heating unit. The conductors are typically color-coded for proper identification and connection. The suggested wiring configuration is as follows. Firstly, the black wire, which represents line 1, should be connected to lug 1 of breaker 1. Secondly, the red wire, which represents line 2, should be connected to lug 1 of breaker 2. Thirdly, the white wire should be connected to the neutral bar in the electrical panel. Finally, the green wire should be connected to the ground bar in the electrical panel. This wiring scheme ensures that the furnace receives a proper 240-volt power supply and has both neutral and ground connections for safety. When selecting the wire, it is essential to consider the environmental conditions where the wiring will be installed. If the wire will be exposed to high temperatures, such as near the furnace itself, it is crucial to use a wire type that is rated for high temperature applications. Common high temperature wire types include THHN, THHW, and XHHW. These wires have insulation that can withstand higher temperatures without degrading, ensuring the long-term reliability and safety of the electrical connection. It is also recommended to route the wire and conduit for physical protection. Conduit provides a protective barrier against damage from impacts, moisture, and other environmental factors. Common types of conduit include rigid metal conduit, or RMC, intermediate metal conduit, or IMC, electrical metallic tubing, or IMT, and flexible metal conduit, or FMC. The choice of conduit depends on the specific application and local electrical codes. For example, RMC and IMC are typically used in harsh environments where greater protection is needed, while EMT is commonly used for general-purpose applications. Ensuring all electrical connections are tight and secure is of utmost importance. Loose connections can cause arcing, overheating, and potentially electrical fires. When making connections, use appropriate connectors and tools and ensure that the connections are properly torqued to the manufacturer's specifications. Periodically inspect the connections to ensure they remain tight and secure over time. Working with electrical systems can be dangerous, and it is always recommended to hire a qualified electrician to perform electrical work. The electricians have the training, experience, and tools necessary to safely and correctly install and maintain electrical systems. They can also ensure that the work complies with all applicable electrical codes and regulations. In summary, when wiring a furnace with two 60-amp 240-volt breakers tied together, use a minimum of 4 AWG copper wire. Ensure the breaker size is also 60 amps. Use a 3-conductor wire with the appropriate color coding. Select wire that is suitable for the environment. Route the wire and conduit for protection. Ensure all connections are tight and secure, and consider hiring a qualified electrician to perform the work. By following these guidelines, a safe and reliable electrical connection for the furnace can be ensured.